Here is a thing that almost nobody in 1862 believed was possible. Prussia was not the strongest German state. Austria was. Austria had more land, more people, more history, and more allies. The German Confederation was essentially an Austrian project, designed to keep Prussia in second place permanently. Bismarck looked at this situation and decided to fix it. His method was not subtle. The first problem was Parliament. Bismarck had been appointed prime minister to solve a budget crisis. The king wanted money to expand the military. Parliament refused. This had been going on for years, and the king was so exhausted by it that he had nearly abdicated. Bismarck's solution was to ignore Parliament entirely. He collected taxes without parliamentary approval. He spent the money on the military anyway. When Parliament objected, he had the newspapers that covered the objections shut down. When officials in his own government pushed back, he fired them. In 4 years, he dismissed over 1,000 people. The liberals called him a dictator. They were not wrong. But Bismarck had a theory. He believed that the German people did not actually want democracy. They wanted results. They wanted a strong Germany. They wanted to stop being pushed around by Austria and France and everyone else who had been treating the German states like a collection of minor inconveniences for the past century. If he could give them that, they would forgive him everything else. He was right. But first, he had to prove it. The opportunity came from an unexpected direction. In 1863, Poland rose up against Russian rule. The January Uprising spread across the country. European powers expressed sympathy. Britain and France made diplomatic noises about supporting Polish independence. Bismarck did the opposite. He publicly supported Russia's right to crush the rebellion. This was not popular. It was not meant to be popular. It was meant to be useful. Bismarck understood something that the other European powers were pretending not to understand. Britain and France were not supporting Poland out of principle. They were supporting Poland because a destabilized Russia was good for their interests. Bismarck was not going to sacrifice Prussia's relationship with its largest neighbor for a performance of moral concern. He sent a military convention to Russia offering cooperation. Russia accepted. When the Polish government sent Bismarck a death sentence in a box tied with black and white ribbons, he threw it in the fireplace. Without reading it, he told the people around him that if Poland had any real power, they would have delivered it in person. He had just secured his eastern flank. Now he could look west. The Danish problem had been building for years. The duchies of Schleswig and Holstein sat at the base of the Danish peninsula. They had large German-speaking populations. They had been under Danish control for decades. The German Confederation had been arguing about them for just as long. In 1863, Denmark moved to formally incorporate Schleswig into the Danish kingdom. Bismarck saw his opening. His plan was elegant in its complexity. He would go to war with Denmark, but he would not go alone. He would invite Austria to join him. Everyone thought this was insane. Prussia and Austria hated each other. They had been rivals for control of the German Confederation for decades. Why would Bismarck invite his main enemy to share a military victory? Because Bismarck was not thinking about Denmark. He was thinking about what came after Denmark. By inviting Austria into the war, he accomplished 4 things at once. He got the territory he wanted from Denmark. He tested the Austrian military and found out exactly how strong they were. He gave Austria a piece of land, Holstein, that was geographically surrounded by Prussian territory, which meant Austria would have to deal with Bismarck to do anything with it. And he created a dispute over that land that he could use as a pretext for the next war whenever he needed one. The Austrian representative at the peace negotiations thought he was getting a good deal. He was not getting a good deal. The war with Denmark lasted 3 months. Denmark was not a major military power. The combined Prussian and Austrian forces overwhelmed them quickly. Britain tried to mediate. The negotiations failed. The war resumed. Denmark surrendered. Bismarck got Schleswig. Austria got Holstein. Then Bismarck waited. He did not have to wait long. The people of Holstein did not want to be Austria. They revolted. Austria, dealing with an unruly population in a territory surrounded by Prussia, made the mistake of issuing an ultimatum. They wanted Prussia to either buy Holstein back at an inflated price or trade it for Silesia, one of Prussia's most valuable industrial regions. Bismarck read this ultimatum and laughed. He went to the king and said, "Austria is being unreasonable. We have no choice but to respond." The king agreed. Before the war started, Bismarck made one more trip. He went to France to see Napoleon III. The French emperor was not the man he had been. He was older, ill, and increasingly uncertain about his position in Europe. But he was still the most powerful figure on the continent, and his neutrality in a Prussian-Austrian war was essential. Bismarck sat across from Napoleon III and made his case carefully. He hinted at territorial concessions. He suggested that a stronger Prussia would be a useful counterweight to Austrian influence. He was charming and indirect, and said almost nothing specific. Napoleon III told him he would not oppose Prussian expansion. Bismarck took this as the answer he needed. He went home and started planning the war. The Austro-Prussian War of 1866 lasted 7 weeks. This was not what anyone expected. Austria had more men. Austria had more experience. Austria had the support of most of the smaller German states, who were terrified of what a Prussian victory would mean for their independence. But Prussia had something Austria did not. They had the needle gun. The Drace needle gun was a breech-loading rifle that could fire 5 rounds per minute. Austrian soldiers were still using muzzleloaders that fired 2. In the decisive battle at Koniggratz, the Prussian infantry simply shot faster than the Austrians could respond. The Austrian army was not defeated by strategy. It was defeated by technology and the training to use it. Bismarck watched the battle from a hilltop, wearing a black coat and a steel helmet, riding a gray horse. When the Austrian lines broke, his aide turned to him and said, "You are about to become a great man." Bismarck said nothing. He was already thinking about what came next. What came next surprised everyone. Bismarck did not destroy Austria. He could have. The Prussian army was at the gates of Vienna. The Austrian government was in chaos. The war was over. All Bismarck had to do was dictate terms. Instead, he offered Austria a generous peace. No territory taken from Austria proper. No reparations designed to cripple them. No humiliation of the Austrian emperor. Just one condition. Austria had to leave the German Confederation. The Prussian generals were furious. They wanted a victory parade through Vienna. They wanted to finish what they had started. Bismarck told them they were thinking like soldiers, not statesmen. He had a reason for leaving Austria intact. 2 reasons, actually. First, a destroyed Austria was a power vacuum on Prussia's eastern border. Russia would fill that vacuum. Bismarck did not want Russia on his doorstep. Second, he might need Austria later. He signed the Peace of Prague on the 23rd of August, 1866. The terms were so mild that the Austrian emperor reportedly could not believe them. Bismarck had just expelled Austria from Germany without making an enemy of them. It was, by any measure, one of the most sophisticated diplomatic maneuvers of the 19th century. When Bismarck returned to Berlin, the streets were full of people. The same people who had called him a dictator. The same people who had thrown rocks at his carriage. The same people who had written newspaper articles demanding his removal. They were cheering. He had done what he said he would do. He had made Prussia the dominant power in Germany. He had done it in 7 weeks. He had done it without destroying the continent in the process. The parliament that had refused to fund his military expansion voted to retroactively approve everything he had done. Bismarck accepted their approval without comment. He had one more war to fight. Next episode, **** France makes a mistake. Bismarck has been waiting for it. If this got you, hit subscribe. We follow the people who actually changed history and find out what they were thinking when they did it. See you next time.